Welcome to New York. It's the T20 World Cup Daily. Adam Collins and Geoff Lemon for Westfield London, Westfield Stratford City.
What day is it?
It's day two. It kind of is day two. It's day three. We're doing a game from day two, which was last night. And we're sat on, I don't really know what we're sat on really. We're on location
it's a generator.
On a generator that would have floodlights. They won't need floodlights here. All the games are in the day.
This device that question, it would answer you in the lyrics to a Foo Fighters song. I'm a generator, is what it would say. Call on me whenever you need something like that.
We're going to go to the game that just finished here at what's this ground called?
This ground is called the Nassau Cricket Stadium in Eisenhower
Park. Well, that was between South Africa and Sri Lanka, and it was a relatively quick kill for the Saffers. Geoff, tell us about it in 30 seconds.
I can tell you about it in 30 seconds because it was pretty slow. It wasn't that quick as far as quick kills go, but they did bowl out Sri Lanka for 77. Just couldn't time anything basically on a pitch where the fast bowlers were difficult to get away. There were a lot of catches hit up in the air. Anrich Nortje took 4 for 7, if you don't mind. Nobody did anything much. Angelo Matthews hit a couple of sixes. Kusal Mendes made 19 of 30 balls, and that was it. And then South Africa sort of crawled to the target as the Sri Lankans bowled pretty well in the circumstances, kept them dry, used the seamers a lot, left spin until very late, and ended up taking 4 wickets along the way. It was 4 for 80 in the 17th over by the time they got there, at a run rate of 4.89. Apparently T20 is all about making 250 these days, but not here.
Yeah, there was a chance for them to really power home on that run rate, but they didn't get a flyer, South Africa, and there was a little moment there when they lost their
What's the opposite of a flyer?
A crawl.
A crawler? Or like it's something underground? A digger?
A digger. They had a digger of a start.
A tunneler.
And they... a
gazunda.
They lost enough wickets that they just had to play within themselves a wee bit, but class, and 6-4 in the 15th over, which meant they had the freedom to finish it in the 17th over, as you said before. So top scoring for them was, I haven't got that bit in front of me, you probably do, Geoff.
Which, South Africa?
There was only 20. De Kock with 20 was the top score.
Yeah.
It was that kind of day. It was a scrappy kind of game. Yep. It's been a scrappy kind of podcast so far.
That's
you
fine.
can tell that because you're listening down the other end.
Yeah.
But
you know that you're here, we're here. This entire thing, this T20 World Cup, it's about honesty. It's about being transparent, being straightforward. Here we are. We're travelling everywhere. We're doing the best we can. There are a lot of games happening. Things will not always be perfect. We didn't say they would be, and we feel that you, as a proper Final Word listener, understand this, and you're on board with that.
Right, let's get into this. So,
let's get into it.
South Africa with the ball
4
on a
quicks,
surface
which was funny.
On a surface that gave them plenty in terms of the... and this is where I think Sri Lanka made a blue in deciding to bat first in the morning when not really knowing what the conditions were going to be like. I know they had a couple of warm-up games here, but I felt like that was a really bold play, and it did backfire on them. And South Africa, I know Anrich Nortje has had a lot of injuries over the last 12 months with his back, and he went around in the RPL, but 4 for 7 from 4 overs. Otniel Bartman, he did the Bartman and bowled 20 dot balls. 20 dot balls. Finished with 1 for 9, which means that I think he got a wicket in his first over.
A wicket maiden. His first over in his second match, by the way, his second T20 for South Africa, his first World Cup match, he starts with a wicket maiden. But all of that happened after Janssen and Rabada started off, and they set the tone by being just difficult to get away. It looked like one of those pitches where the ball coming off the surface was erratic. It was difficult to time. Occasionally one would jump through. If somebody really banged it in, they could get serious lift. Even Angelo Matthews operating at a much lower pace. Then some got them to jump. Paterana got them to jump, but for the most part, it was anybody who tried to time the ball was finding it really difficult. So Nasanka's on 3 off 8 by the time he gets out. With Kusal Mendes, they were on about 15 from the first 5 overs. They just couldn't lay bat on ball, and eventually, they're 1 for 13 when the first wicket falls, and that's in the 4th over. And it was that kind of pressure starting to tell, and then that just continues. Kaminda Mendes comes in, gets out to Nortje, hitting one up in the air, and that's pretty much how the trend continued with Nortje's 4 wickets.
The one thing I'd say is that when you're all out for 77, typically you're sort of 4 for nothing. It didn't quite play out that way. I mean, they didn't lose their second wicket until the 8th over. They were just going very slowly. Kusal Mendes especially couldn't hit it off the square. Then they tried to turn the pressure back on South Africa when Keshav Maharaj comes into the attack, and he picks up 2 in 2 balls with Hasaranga running past one.
Hasaranga putting himself up the order too. So Hasaranga's captaining this side, which is interesting. You've got Dasan Shanaka, who used to, Angelo Matthews, who used to. Hasaranga's got the armband, metaphorically, and so he goes, okay, I'll go up the order and attack the spinner, which I liked the decision-making. Like, that's taking responsibility as captain. It's saying, I see that we're not scoring fast enough. I see a thing that we need to do. Let's do it. But, he charges past it and gets stumped. And then Samara Vikrama, who we saw how classy a player he is in the 50-over World Cup last year, just misses one first ball he's not even trying to slog it. He's just poking at it, and suddenly Maharaj has 2-2.
Yeah, it was a.
Would you say he went bang bang?
He did go bang bang. Yeah. He was on a hat trick. It was very similar to the ball that Hossain bowled yesterday in the PNG game. So around the wicket, Maharaj changing the angle, almost sidearm, but getting it to go straight on and hitting off stump at pace. It was a classy bit of bowling first up to send Sam Wickrmer back, and they were 32 for 4. At that point, they're fucked. So they weren't completely fucked after 8 overs, because there was always the chance they could accelerate, get to 120, 130, and that would have been a very different game on this surface. But
5 for 40 is when you're really screwed.
Yeah, that's the slow goodbye.
When Kusal Mendes becomes the second from Nortje and hits another one up in the air.
Yeah, that's right. And it always felt like that was a matter of time. The short ball worked well for South Africa, both with wicket-taking deliveries and almost just setting them up for them. So there were a couple of balls where they tried to flick deep out to the leg side after bouncers had hurried them up. And that's a factor, isn't it? That when you try and get a sense of the surface and it's not quite there for you, that you're trying to make something out of nothing. And that was part of their demise today. Nortje bowling at pace. Rabada hit the stumps at one stage at pace. And even though South Africa, it's difficult to get a read on them. They came within 5 good overs of making a World Cup final last year. And, they were blitzing the group stage at one point. They'll having gotten over the line in this game, they'll almost certainly qualify for the Super 8s. And look, we haven't seen them tested with the batters yet, but with the ball, they're always going to be one of the toughest teams to get away.
They've got an open group. They've got Bangladesh in their group, the Netherlands, Nepal. So that second spot, if South Africa are able to keep winning, is definitely up for grabs. Charatha Lanka was basically timed, played the one shot of good timing where he flicked it off his pads from Nortje, and there was one fielder out in the deep square leg and picked him out.
And I think that's one of those where there was a bouncer either the ball before or the ball before that. You know what I'm trying to say? Like they were using their lengths well, as Steve Smith said on commentary. They were making them hit square of the wicket routinely, and that's what you want in T20 cricket. If you're quick, you want them playing to deep point or to square leg where there is some risk with the sweepers back.
Angelo Matthews, for a minute, looks like he might do one of his salvage jobs. He uses his feet and hits the spinner straight for 6. He hits Nortje, isn't it, over the leg side, like serious distance, another 6 there, but he's out for 16, skying one off Nortje. So, 77. It's one of those games where you think, well, if they'd made 97, it might have really tested them, because it was hard bloody work. Quinton de Kock and Reza Hendricks starting off. Hendricks is out in the second over. Tashara bowls the second over. This is you're expecting to see Patarana come on because he's the quickest. He's the Chennai Super Kings blessed new young thing coming through and all the rest of it. But Nuwan Tashara bowls a similar style. He bowls that very round arm Malinga sort of slinging in, trying to bowl Yorkers. And the one that he pulls back from a length kicks and takes the shoulder of the bat and goes to slip. Quinton de Kock's barely scoring at this point. Aiden Markram comes in and struggles to score.
And Markram gets a good one too, right? So Markram gets one that squares him up, and it's Kamindu.
It's Dustin Shanaka with that with the ball.
Now Dustin Shanaka, he ends up completing a wicket maiden, but the ball after, the one where he claims a wicket, there's the dropped catch. It was put down by Kusal Mendes, the wicket keeper. It's a straightforward chance. So if Stubb goes first ball, and I think there's one down, there's a shout for caught down the leg side from Stubbs when he's still on 0 as well. Doesn't hit the bat, but there is a moment of jeopardy.
That was interesting. They got a wide overturned though, which I
did like that.
So that flicked the trousers, but it was given as a wide initially, and then the wide had to be rewound. So nobody's finding it easier to score out there. Nobody's struggling more than Tristan Stubbs, who ends up making his way to 13 from 28 balls.
What did cross my mind through that period of play was the 2021 T20 World Cup, where South Africa, I think it was Bangladesh, not Sri Lanka, but where they were in cruise control in the chase, and they took too long to complete the job, and it really hurt them with net run rate. Now, that shouldn't be the case in this type of setup, because if you're not aware, the net run rate points don't continue through to the Super 8s. Once you reach the Super 8s, the clock starts again. Okay. Whereas in the previous format, there was only one step from what they then called the Super 12s, and then the semi-finals, which meant that South Africa finished third and couldn't get through to the final four from that side of the draw. But still, I found that interesting. They didn't really go for it until Klaassen went 6-4 and just gave them the chance to finish it on their terms. Because for a couple of minutes there, you're thinking this might be it won't be like last night. It's not going to be reaching the 20th over, but they might drag it all the way to the 19th over at least.
I guess having beaten the other main threat in the group, they're in a position where they shouldn't rely on net run rate to progress, but you never know. So the bowling stuff was interesting with Hasaranga as captain. Didn't use spin until the 12th or 13th over. Didn't use Patarana until the 10th over. He's bowling his medium paces. He opens up with Angelo Matthews, who bowls really well. And was very hard to get away. He got hit for a 6 in his 4th over, but that was deeper into the inning. Sorry, his 3rd over. But his first 2 goes for bugger all. There's a streaky boundary and a wide, and that's about it as far as scoring goes. And then he brings Dustin Shanaka on, who bowls really well, and he's got Tashara doing a job there. And they go all the way through until the 10th over before Patarana comes on and looks $1 million suddenly and picks up a wicket as well. Or almost does, with that ball that takes off the surface and nearly takes the shoulder of the bat of was it Stubbs that one went past. So Quinton de Kock still out there just dinking it around. Yeah, it was interesting the way they used the bowlers, and then eventually Hasaranga comes on and he picks up a wicket as well. He gets Stubbs driving back to him. So Quinton de Kock driving back to him, and he gets Stubbs caught at cover as well, just trying to lift the pace and slap one through. So yeah, they end up 4 down. Heinrich Klaasen's there at the end, 19 off 22 balls, and he does go for it. Hits a 4 and a 6. And Paul Tikshana, the off spinner, who comes on with 6 runs to defend, bowling like the 16th over of the innings. It's a tough job.
And the way that he played as well, when Tikshana came in, he was swinging and everything and not making contact and looked thoroughly out of his depth. He did hit one boundary, didn't he, before he was, I think from memory, he was caught in the deep. But yeah, it kind of summed up his day, didn't it, that he only came on when the game was basically done, when Tikshana's been Sri Lanka's most important short form bowler, along with Hasaranga over the last 3 years.
Yeah, so 80 for 4 in the end. They wrap it up. South Africa, it wasn't a classic. We won't be looking back to it in years to come with a great deal of fondness or interest, but it was interesting on the day. I enjoyed the chase and how difficult it was, and I wonder whether that will continue. They've got 4 pitches here at Eisenhower Park. Will the others play like that slow, that difficult, or will they have a bit more life in them?
In terms of who they play next, Sri Lanka have got Bangladesh. They do not get along.
They don't get along.
It's going to be fun. They're playing at the Grand Prairie Stadium at Dallas on Friday, and South Africa have the Dutch, who have been a bogey side the last 2 times they've played in World Cups. Netherlands have gotten up, both at Adelaide Oval in 2022 and then last year in the 50 over World Cup. That's being played here at New York on Saturday. So they pretty much get the week off now, South Africa, where they don't play again. So they'll spend some time probably with us in town in Brooklyn, enjoying themselves. Right, let's take a break, Geoff. We've got another game to come to. Before we do that, we're going to tell you that our show is brought to you by Westfield London and Westfield Stratford City, as it has been throughout, now successive World Cups and throughout the year as well. And about them, I will tell you the following. T20 cricket might be all about flashing neon stumps. DJ spinning tunes from 15 years ago. By the way, Bye 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 from NSYNC was running it. This must be on the... I mentioned this after the Dallas game. This must be a thing. Must be on their prescribed playlist. Bright colours and slamming Maxima right up to the people. But if you're looking for something more reserved and subdued, then look no further than Westfield London and the brand new reserved and subdued stores. I like what you've done there, Sheehan. Subdued is home to the coolest Italian-inspired and designed clothing for fun-loving, independent young people, while Reserved does city chic like no other fashion label. So, if you're looking for some new threads, duds, fits or clobber, look no further than Westfield London's 2 newest fashion destinations.
It is such Australian in London gear coming from Sheehan there.
Yeah, on that front. Reserved and Subdued. They're the shops, and they're at Westfield London. That's the one out at Shepherd's Bush. They're more extra, they're less ordinary. We'll be back in a moment with a discussion about Oman and Namibia's thriller, and a little bit of Hall of Fame as well. It's the Final Word Day 3 World Cup special. I don't know why I said that. It just came out that way.
It's not really a special, because there will be an episode every day, so I don't know if this one's more special than others.
It's not. So the other game last night, that was at Barbados, Geoff, and we didn't get a chance to watch it live because we were flying through the duration of the game from Dallas. That's the way it's going to work sometimes.
We were, but you are going to tell me about it more or less in the space of 30 seconds.
Might be more like 15 seconds. Big Ruben Trumpelman hits the pads twice in 2 balls to start the match. Oman were well behind the 8 ball. They were 4 for fuck all. They recovered to 109 at the end, which was after David Wiese bowled them out in the 20th over. Wiese has a role to play later on as well. They got off to a pretty good start, the Namibians in pursuit of 110, but they get dried up in the last 5 overs. Suddenly they need to go at 8s at the death. They needed, I think, 9 off the final over. Wiese from the last ball, they ran it by. We're going to a super over for the first time since 2012 in the T20 World Cup. Wiese hits 15 of the 21 that Namibia claim in that. He also picks up a wicket to make sure that they get over the line comfortably. But it was quite the game to watch back on tape delay, Geoff.
Definitely. The beginning, Trumpelman, he's so huge. he's this sort of big, the curly blonde hair, and he kind of looks like he should be walking into an Australian pub in the early 80s perhaps, and ordering a round of Fosters or something like that.
Yeah, he's a big, good-looking man. The way he bowls, he and Spencer Johnson might open the bowling in a franchise somewhere at some point in the future.
Yeah, he's a bit more round-shouldered, a bit more kind of Brad Williams-ish in the shoulders, but he's got that lion's mane, and he's got the left arm stuff hooping, and he hoops it into the pads twice in a row. They're 2 for none, and then they're 4 for 37. Zishan Maqsood, enjoyed watching his innings back, particularly the no-look pull shot that he played, very Maxwell-esque, as he went away through the leg side without bothering to watch where the ball was going.
A shot's unconventional and successful when you can hear the whoa in the back of the commentary box on TV. He's like, whoa, what's he done there?
What's he done there?
He gets 22. Khalil Kale made 34 to keep things in check. Trumpelman, who had a really good World Cup in 2021. Remember that Namibia made it through in the UAE to the second phase, so they played the 3 initial games, and it would have been 5 further games in the second round. So, he's played 8 World Cup matches coming into this. I don't think that's... And also in Australia in 2022. So this will be his 12th World Cup game. And I think that is significant when you think about Namibia, that they're not coming into this in quite the same way that PNG last night, everything was a first, right? Everything was a novelty. They played in 2015, or 2016 rather, but they didn't make it out of the group. And that's a really long time ago. Barely any of the players are still there. The USA
and that was a different setup where it was basically a different tournament before the main tournament.
That's right. So USA 2004, none of them survived from that tournament, that Champions Trophy. Canada back even before that. Oman played 2 years ago in 2021, but didn't get out of the group either. Namibia, out of all of the associate nations, and the Dutch, are the ones that have actually had the chance to play the full member country. So, it's improbable they get through due to the way the groups are set up with only 2 qualifying out of 5. But out of all the associate nations, I think Namibia are the one most likely to take a big scalp and give themselves a chance to make the second round.
They bowled well. Schultz to Zishan, that was like as plumb as you get, bowling, left arm over and turning into the left-hander, and hit him in front of the off stump, right back on the stumps. Gerhard Erasmus picked up wickets as well, bowling his slows. I just think of him as sort of 1800s slows.
Chris Harris, the captain.
Right, and they end up bowling out Oman, Rob Guest for 109, Trumpelman 4 for 21, and you should be knocking that off. I'm just going to say, it doesn't matter what team you are, you should be making 109 in 20 overs.
And look, they're doing it as well. The experience of Jan Freilink and the aforementioned Gerard Erasmus get them to 73 for 3 with 33 balls to go. So they're not galloping to the finish line, but if you've got 7 wickets in hand and 30 odd runs to get it to run a ball, usually what you're doing is finishing that in 18 overs, and you're getting a little net run rate boost on the way through. But they're hard held. A couple of bad shots there. JJ Schmidt holes out to long on, I think, from memory. And then Mehan Khan plays a really important role too. Again, you've got medium pace with keeper up to the stump. Same thing we saw when PNG were defending a small target or a small first innings tally yesterday. So maybe that's a factor in the Caribbean, that we're going to see bowlers who bowl medium pace who can have the keeper up and can bowl cutters on pitches that should suit.
Yeah, I suppose so. And so he's got Zane Green, who hops across the stumps and gets done LBW. I was enjoying just how long it was taking umpire Wilson to make his decisions. Like, there were some very, very late ones. Think about it. And then he's doing the real straight points these days, a bit of Rudy Kurtzen energy. Like, point at you, have a good hard look at yourself, you're out. It just keeps going. And luckily, they have David Wiese, who comes in towards the end, who manages to hit a 6 down the ground, sort of get things back within what should be relatively comfortable touch. They need, 5 off the last over.
It's 5 from 4 balls after they lose the wicket. And then, because it's real squeaky bum stuff, it does come down to needing 2 runs from the final ball. And Wiese misses everything. It leaps above the bat. So again, keeper up to the stump, same medium pacer, and it deflects off the keeper's gloves. He could have backhanded the throw and run out the man coming through.
Well, he attempts it and he misses the stump. So does that throw hit, then Oman win by a run. It doesn't, so the game is tied. And in they go to the super over. But
they could have come back for a second. So Wiese was looking for the second run, and he wasn't getting any support from his partner at the time.
It's funny. We talk about this all the time, but it's where your cricket instinct is, I shouldn't run because I might get out. But you've got to override that by knowing that it doesn't matter if you get out at that point. You can still bat in the super over if you get out. You have to go. You just have to go and try to put the pressure on the fielding team to make them, because someone's going to have to go and pick that ball up and then throw and hit the stumps or find somebody's hands over the bails.
And Wiese gets the chance in the Super Over, as you'd expect. It's Bilal Khan bowling to him and Gerard Erasmus, and 4 off the first ball.
Who's bowled so well in that last over, by the way,
yes,
Bilal Khan,
yes.
to keep them quiet and to well, they should have won the game, really. If the keeper gloves that ball, then they win.
He stands on top of the stumps and waits for the run to be taken and knocks the bails off. But 4 behind point first ball, digs out a Yorker, super stuff, then a 6 from a full toss, and really 10 for none after 2 balls in a Super Over. You're not losing from there. Erasmus sweeps, clever shot on the 5th ball of the over. Wiese digs out another Yorker to finish it, so they get up to 21. Then David Wiese, he's got the hot hand. He bowls the over instead of Trumpelman.
Yep.
He's bowling at Naseem Cushy and Zishan Maksud, who batted well in the first innings, so to speak. But he bowls Cushy 3rd ball, chopping on, and Wiese's the hero. They needed 19 from 3 balls or 18 for a second Super Over. There is a 6 from the final ball, but it's not going to happen, and Namibia get the 2 points.
Very Baz Delita energy. I'm going to do all the batting in the Super Over, and then I'll do all the bowling in the Super Over.
Well,
and there are people. Not thinking of anybody in particular, but there are people who would say, when you're watching an associate side and you talk about the most well-known player, that's the only player you've ever heard of. When that's the player who's both batting and bowling in the Super Over, there's a reason that they are the player in the team that people have heard of.
Yeah, and look, we interviewed David Wiese on the pod. I think I spoke to him
a few weeks ago.
Yeah, 4 or 5 weeks ago about this tournament and about the responsibility that he feels with this team. Lots of experience that I mentioned before because they've made 3 World Cups in a row. But when you boil it down, he is the guy getting the opportunities on the circuit. He's the guy playing like 40 T20 matches a year, or probably more than that. Back playing in South Africa as well. And he's the guy who wants to make this happen for them. So I'm thrilled that it was him. Namibia get the points and they give themselves a chance. Now they've won this one. They get some... They don't get any free hits, but if they can knock off a full member, anything is possible. Geoff, we've got a Hall of Fame to get to as well. Any recommendations from you?
Yes, I would say, sometimes people say pick the right side of the plane for certain destinations. This was an accident, but sitting on the starboard side as we arrived in New York, as evening was coming on, the plane then does a left turn, does a port turn, if we want to be naval, up the Hudson, up the entire length of Manhattan. You see the ports area, the business district come into view, and then right through the middle, all of the skyscrapers spring up like some sort of magic fungus. They're all lit up and glowing out of the earth. There's the Empire State. There's everything. You can see it as clear as day down there. Then you come to Central Park. You again get the sense of how huge that park is. It takes like several minutes to traverse the entire length, and then up to the uptown areas, to Harlem, and like seeing the whole sort of storied map, geography of the city unfold beneath us in real time. It's absolutely bloody magical sometimes to be able to see the world from that vantage point. I think it's something that people get jaded about and forget that it's incredible that it's possible to do that. But it was genuinely magical. I was quite moved last night.
More magical than me preparing story time at the same time. Sure. I had my laptop open. I wish I had have realised what was going on, although I was on the other side of the plane, so I wouldn't have got quite the same experience as you. Lovely one to start there, Geoff. I mentioned Steve Smith on commentary. He was excellent today. He was he did 3 spots, and what you want from a TV commentator, from a player or a former player, at least from my viewing perspective, is them to tell you stuff you don't already know or share their insight from playing at the top level.
Right.
And he was great with that, tactically unpicking what both teams were doing. He wasn't making it about him. He wasn't talking about his own experiences. It wasn't self-referential. It was like, I've got a job to do here, and I'm going to explain to you what's happening as the colour commentator. So great to have Steve here, who's spending a lot of his time in New York at the moment. Dale Steyn, speaking of commentators who are really throwing themselves into it, at the halfway mark he was doing the pitch report, and he got down on the surface on his hands and knees, and he wanted to show that the pitch was hard, so he was hitting his knuckles into the surface with the microphone right over the top of it. I think all pitches sound that way, but it was more points for effort for Dale Steyn, who's been doing this for a couple of years now. At one stage, Aidan Markram was hit in the box when batting, and it took him a while to get him ready again when they were jiggling his legs. Have you noticed that's a new thing when a batsman gets in the...
I don't know why.
They send the
physio
little
bicycles,
and
like you do with your baby when they're lying in the changer, little leg
That's
jiggle.
right, a bit of baby massage on the tummy perhaps as well. But Ebony, who said that, I wonder what they do they bring out some spray, which I thought was lovely from Ebs, the idea that they spray the balls to the physio when they've been knocked out. That's not what they do, but again,
chilly.
I like that from Ebony, who hopefully we'll see for a beer later today, because it's only what?
It's only...
I don't even know. My watch is still on London time. What time is it? It's 2 something.
I'm going to throw in my anti-Hall of Fame is, broadly law enforcement and the way things have worked out here. Now, I'll be clear here. This isn't the ICC's fault. They've gone out on a limb to put this tournament on. But the way this has been set up, there is this massive park here. The way they've fenced off the entire place, restricted the access so drastically. People are having to rock up to a parking lot at Nassau Coliseum, which is miles away, and take shuttle buses and walk in. There are so many layers of security. There are dogs sniffing bags. There are cops on horses. There are guys in tack vests with machine guns. It is such overkill. It's so ridiculous. It's so intimidating, and it makes the whole experience so much less pleasant than it might be. Like, this is cricket. People are at the cricket. The ICC manages to put events on around the world without needing this kind of stuff, and it's driven by local law enforcement saying this is the way it has to be done because that's how they do things in America. You know, big events are always policed like this. You can't take anything into most sporting grounds, big concerts at stadiums and all the rest of it. But it just makes it such an unpleasant experience to feel like there's this heavy-handed, heavily armed authority all over the place when we're supposed to be in a park in the middle of a nice sunny day having a good time.
Yeah, and
I hate it.
The interesting contrast to Dallas, where there was none of that a couple of nights ago, so I'm not sure why.
Yep.
I suppose it's the state authority and the city authority who are making
the local
decisions.
Yeah, it's Nassau County Police, who a lot of who you're seeing around here. But you know, the number of layers of security we had to go through and checks we had to go through, it was literally more intense than going to the test matches in Pakistan, which seems insane.
I think you had an especially bad experience, because you were able to give me a steer as to where the best starting point would be.
Yeah.
I didn't have that experience. It was fairly straightforward. However, it's a mighty old gallop from the starting point to the gate, so we have been given a bit of a hack on how to get around that in future days. It will improve from here. It was day one. There was always going to be some teething problems. The fact of the matter is that it's really interesting that this is happening at the moment, and they sold 18,000 tickets today when South Africa played Sri Lanka at the last time they played in the T20 World Cup. I don't even know when that was. I'm tipping there wasn't 18,000 there then for that. So that's not for nothing. Right, Geoff, let's wrap it up. Our coverage, as always, for Westfield London, Westfield Stratford City, more extra, less ordinary. We'll be back tomorrow. The game that we'll be covering in the morning will be from Dallas, I think, pretty sure.
Sounds right.
But we will be here doing it together somewhere. Unclear where. Maybe in town. We might go and do tomorrow's in Manhattan. Time will tell. We've got that option because we're not going to be at a game. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Let's do it all again tomorrow. Bye.
See ya.